At Christmas, my stepsister discovered I had $12 million, and my family demanded I give it to her, claiming she deserved it more. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great contents. Your support means everything. Let us keep this channel growing collectively. Thank you very much. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. So, I'm Madison, 32, female, and I need to get this off my chest. Do you know those family dynamics in which one child can do no wrong while the other is treated like they're invisible? Yes, welcome to my life, with an added layer of cultural complexity that made everything even harder. Everything was typical until I was 7. I was an only child born to a Taiwanese American mother, and my father, who was a software engineer. While my parents weren't particularly warm and fuzzy, they were present, I suppose. Mom would help me with my math homework, and Dad would occasionally take me fishing at the lake and teach me simple coding on his bulky desktop computer. We weren't perfect, but we were a family. Then came the news that would change everything. My father passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. The world as I knew it collapsed around me in an instant. I was devastated, clinging to memories of him showing me how to debug simple programs and telling me I could be anything I wanted. 2 years later, when I was 9, my mother Heather announced she was remarrying a man named Gregory and that we would be moving into his home. He has a daughter your age, Mom told me with forced brightness. You'll have a sister. Won't that be wonderful? I nodded, but inside I felt a gnawing sense of dread. Something about the way she said it, like she was trying to sell me on the idea, made me uneasy. The day we moved in was bright and sunny, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. Gregory was tall with graying hair at his temples and a booming laugh that seemed to fill every corner of the house. His daughter Vanessa was everything I wasn't: blonde, outgoing, and instantly charming. She twirled in her pink dress when we arrived, showing off for the adults. Maddie, why don't you wear pretty dresses like Vanessa? My mother asked later that week. I looked down at my jeans and t-shirt, suddenly feeling inadequate. That was the first time I felt it. An invisible wall forming between me and my mother. A wall that would only grow taller and stronger with time. When we officially became a family, our house turned into what felt like foreign territory for me. Mom suddenly seemed hyper-aware of our Taiwanese heritage, but not in a way that celebrated it. Instead, she was constantly coaching me on how to be more American, while simultaneously critiquing my programming hobby as not girly enough. Madison, why don't you try cheerleading like Vanessa? Gregory would suggest, his tone light, but his eyes judgmental. All that computer stuff is for boys, don't you think? But here's the bit that really messed me up. Whenever I spoke Mandarin with my grandmother on the phone or brought home books about coding, there would be these subtle looks exchanged between Mom and Gregory. I was made to feel like my very identity was an inconvenience. Meanwhile, Vanessa's every interest, from dance to fashion magazines, was celebrated with enthusiasm. At first, I tried to adapt. I hid my programming books under my mattress and stopped mentioning when I aced my math tests. But children aren't stupid. After a while, you begin to understand what's actually going on. You aren't just different, you're being treated as fundamentally less valuable because of those differences. I tried everything to gain their attention in a healthier manner. Honestly, everything. Got all as in advanced math. Mom would scarcely look up from Vanessa's latest dance recital schedule. Created a working app at 15 that won the regional science fair. Gregory just asked if I could do something normal for once, since Vanessa felt intimidated by my showing off. The pain of that comment stuck with me for years. The real kicker came when I was 14. For months, I'd been working on an encryption algorithm that caught the attention of my computer science teacher, who entered it in a statewide hacking competition. The day I won first place, bringing national attention to our school, was also the day of Vanessa's cheerleading tryouts. Guess who didn't have anyone in the audience to see her accept her award? Meanwhile, 2 weeks later, the entire family, including both sets of grandparents, attended Vanessa's first pep rally, where she stood in the back row and barely participated. Vanessa quickly learned how to use the system. By the age of 12, she had perfected the art of being the center of attention. Feeling insecure about her math test? Mom would help her study all night while I figured out calculus on my own. Wanted a new phone? Gregory would buy it immediately, while I saved babysitting money to upgrade my coding equipment. I began spending more and more time in my room, immersed in programming forums and cybersecurity books. My room became my sanctuary, my gateway to a world where my Asian heritage and my love for technology weren't liabilities, but strengths. Online, nobody cared what I looked like, or that I didn't fit into my stepfamily's mold of the perfect American girl. Do you know what was actually strange? When Vanessa had her friends over and I was explicitly uninvited, a part of me felt relieved. At least then I could visit Grandma Evelyn, my father's mother, where someone would ask about my coding projects or speak to me in Mandarin. Grandma was the one who encouraged my interest in cybersecurity. She was a retired computer science professor who recognized my talent immediately. "Your father would be so proud," she'd tell me, her eyes glistening. "Never hide your brilliance, Madison." The worst thing wasn't even the clear favoritism. It was how they rewrote history to excuse their actions. Madison just needs less attention because she's so smart and independent. Asian children are naturally more self-sufficient. Madison understands that Vanessa needs more support because she's not as academically gifted. No, I did not understand. I was a child who couldn't comprehend why being good at math and programming, or having a different cultural background, made me less deserving of love and support. Looking back, I can see how these years shaped me. The persistent message that my cultural identity and intellectual interests were somehow inappropriate doesn't just vanish from your psyche. But in an odd way, it propelled me forward. When no one celebrates your achievements or guides your development, you learn to chart your own course with fierce determination. High school was a battleground for most people. Social hierarchies, academic pressure, identity formation. For me, I regarded it as my launch pad. While Vanessa was establishing her social media presence and planning elaborate proposals, I was coding late into the night and applying for prestigious tech competitions. Nothing fuels ambition quite like the knowledge that you're entirely on your own. Remember how I mentioned Grandma Evelyn's support of my programming? That connection taught me a valuable lesson. Find your people, even if they're not in your immediate family. In high school, I created an underground hacking club that attracted other outsiders like me. My desk at home resembled a mini tech command center, multiple monitors, color-coded project boards, meticulously organized code repositories. Vanessa would snicker whenever her friends came over, pointing at my setup and calling me Robot Girl. The irony that those same skills would eventually make me millions wasn't lost on me. But here's the beautiful irony of being invisible. When no one's tracking your failures or successes, you have complete freedom to chart your own course. I immersed myself in the tech world, joining coding competitions that wouldn't interfere with my part-time jobs at Nexus Cafe. Thank you to Zoe, the owner, for remembering my birthday with a custom-coded card when my own family had forgotten. Cybersecurity team, founded and led it. Mathematics Olympiad, national finalist. Computer Science Honor Society, elected president my junior year. The hackathon circuit was where I truly found my voice. There's something incredibly empowering about cracking a security system that everyone else deemed impenetrable while maintaining absolute focus. These competitions taught me how to think strategically and identify vulnerabilities. Skills I didn't realize at the time would become the foundation of my future empire. I won the National Cybersecurity Challenge twice in a row. Vanessa had major social media events those weekends. She was trying to become an influencer, barely had any followers, and naturally, my parents couldn't possibly miss supporting her nascent career. The sting of their absence faded with each trophy I brought home, alone. Junior year was when everything shifted into high gear. I took the SAT and scored a perfect 1600. Not pretty good, perfect. Absolutely flawless. Do you know what percentage of students achieve that? Less than 0.001%. I remember staring at my computer screen for nearly half an hour, convinced there must be some mistake. Despite knowing better, I rushed home to share the news. Mom was in the kitchen helping Vanessa with her Instagram caption strategy. The conversation went exactly as expected. Me. Mom, look, I got a perfect SAT score. Perfect 1600. Mom, that's nice, sweetie, but can you keep it down? Vanessa's trying to craft her brand message. She has a sponsored post deadline tomorrow. Vanessa. Yeah, some of us have to work at being relevant. Not everyone's a freaky genius or whatever. Mom. Vanessa, honey, don't stress. You're just gifted in different, more socially valuable ways. I still have those set results saved on my hard drive. They never made it to the refrigerator door. But Vanessa's first 1,000 Instagram followers. That milestone warranted a custom-made banner across the living room, complete with a family celebration dinner and social media star in the making, balloons. The college application process was a solitary journey I navigated entirely on my own. I applied to 17 schools without telling anyone, crafting my personal statements about technology innovation and cultural identity late at night while my family slept. I solicited my own recommendation letters, completed every scholarship application, and handled all the financial paperwork myself. My computer science teacher, Dr. Trent, became my unofficial mentor during this time, staying late after school to review my applications, and even driving me to college interviews when my parents were busy with Vanessa's influencer meetups. Then the acceptances started flooding in. MIT, Stanford, Caltech, Carnegie Mellon. Each with generous scholarship offers that recognized my technical achievements. I stored all the letters in an encrypted folder on my computer, knowing exactly what would happen if Vanessa discovered them. Suddenly, the narrative would shift to how my success threatened her emotional well-being. But if Madison goes to MIT, I'll have no one to help me with my tech issues, or some equally transparent attempt to hold me back. The day I received my full-ride scholarship to MIT, complete with a prestigious tech innovation grant, was the same day Vanessa got accepted into a local influencer marketing workshop. Guess which achievement prompted Gregory to announce a special celebration dinner? Hint: I ate instant ramen at my desk, debugging code for a security competition, while they took Vanessa to the Cheesecake Factory to celebrate her entrepreneurial spirit. But you know what? That MIT acceptance was my liberation. Tuition, housing, meal plan, plus a stipend for tech equipment, all covered. I could finally escape a household where my identity and intellect were either invisible or inconvenient. The evening I received my scholarship package, I went to my favorite thinking spot, a secluded corner of the public library's computer lab with views of downtown, and cried for nearly 2 hours. Not tears of sadness, but of profound relief and vindication. When I finally told my family over dinner that I'd been accepted to MIT with a full scholarship, their reactions were painfully predictable. Gregory, Massachusetts. That's across the country. What about family loyalty? Vanessa might need your tech support for her social media career. Mom, I hope you're not expecting us to help with plane tickets home. Vanessa's influencer equipment upgrades are getting so expensive. Vanessa, with dramatic flair. Oh my God. Finally. Can I convert your room into my content creation studio? I need the space for my ring lights and backdrop wall. The summer before college, I worked double shifts at the local tech repair shop to save money for expenses MIT wouldn't cover. Dr. Trent, who became more of a father figure than Gregory ever was, helped me land the job and often brought me coffee during long shifts. He also imparted wisdom I carry to this day. In technology and in life, Madison, the ones making the most noise about their capabilities, are usually compensating for serious security vulnerabilities. Move-in day at MIT arrived with predictable family drama. My parents couldn't attend because, shocking absolutely no one. Vanessa had an emergency meeting with a potential sponsor for her beauty vlog. Aunt Penelope drove me instead, helped me arrange my dorm room, and handed me an envelope containing $2,000. Your grandma Evelyn insisted you have this, she explained with a warm smile. She said it's for whatever technology you need that the scholarship doesn't cover. She's incredibly proud of you. Later, I learned Grandma had liquidated some of her retirement investments to give me that gift. That first night in my MIT dorm room, surrounded by other brilliant minds who saw my talent rather than my otherness, I made myself a solemn promise. I would build such an extraordinary life and career that being overlooked would become literally impossible. Not out of vengeance, not to prove anything to my family, but for that 7-year-old girl who lost her father and then had her identity and gifts systematically devalued. College unfolded in a whirlwind of coding marathons, cybersecurity competitions, and exhilarating intellectual freedom. I graduated from MIT with highest honors, having already published 2 groundbreaking papers on encryption methodologies. Not that my family noticed. They were preoccupied helping Vanessa launch her 3rd failed attempt at becoming a lifestyle blogger. But this is where my story takes an unexpected turn that changed everything. I landed an entry-level position at Horizon Security Solutions in Seattle, not the actual name for obvious reasons, but industry insiders will recognize the reference. It was a legitimate powerhouse in the cybersecurity field, with Fortune 500 clients and government contracts. I started in their vulnerability assessment division, identifying security weaknesses in corporate systems before actual hackers could exploit them. Not the glamorous side of tech that makes headlines, but it paid well and gave me invaluable experience. The breakthrough. My first several months followed standard protocol, running security diagnostics, documenting system vulnerabilities, generating comprehensive reports. Then came the Blackwell contract. Blackwell Industries was a multinational corporation that had experienced a series of sophisticated breach attempts. Everyone assumed these were routine cyber attacks. What no one realized was that the pattern contained something far more significant. This is where those hours dissecting code with Grandma Evelyn proved invaluable. While analyzing the attack patterns, I noticed something unusual in the data stream. It wasn't just a standard breach attempt. There was a distinctive signature in the code, an elegance to the encryption that felt different from typical attacks. The execution was too sophisticated, the approach too nuanced for common cybercriminals. My instincts screamed that this wasn't a random hack, but a targeted infiltration by a state-sponsored entity. I spent my entire lunch break that day reviewing historical cyber attack signatures from various nations. I ended up working until 3 a.m., using the company's premium access to classified cybersecurity databases. The deeper I dug, the more certain I became that we were dealing with something far more significant than originally thought. The problem was, I was still the new hire, and a young Asian American woman in a field dominated by older white men. Nobody would take me seriously if I claimed we had a national security issue on our hands. So I applied what I'd learned from years of debate competitions. I methodically built my case. I spent 2 weeks, during lunch breaks and late evenings, analyzing every byte of the attack signature. I even used my meager savings to purchase specialized forensic software to strengthen my analysis. Finally, I gathered the courage to approach Dr. Trent, now my supervisor at Horizon. I prepared a comprehensive presentation with attack vector schematics, comparative signature analyses, and historical precedents. The conversation went something like this. Sir, I believe the Blackwell situation is significantly more serious than we've assessed. Dr. Trent, barely glancing up from his security dashboard. Madison, we've already classified this as a standard corporate espionage attempt. I understand, but look at these encryption patterns. They match perfectly with known signatures from the Obsidian Shield group. Dr. Trent, finally giving me his full attention. How did you identify this? That information isn't even in our standard databases. I developed my own analysis algorithm. It's complicated. The short version is that my discovery prevented a massive breach that would have compromised sensitive infrastructure data. The attack was indeed traced back to a notorious state-sponsored hacking collective. My counter-intrusion protocol was implemented across Blackwell's global network within hours. But here's the real game changer. Dr. Trent began trusting my instincts implicitly after that. He assigned me to their most sensitive security projects. Suddenly, all those years of being called Robot Girl for my coding obsession transformed into my greatest professional asset. I threw myself completely into developing cutting-edge security protocols. I enrolled in every advanced cryptography course available. I spent weekends creating vulnerability assessment tools, testing them against the most sophisticated hacking attempts. I built a proprietary algorithm that could detect intrusion patterns before they fully manifested. My apartment transformed into a cybersecurity command center, multiple monitors displaying code, walls covered with network architecture diagrams, and whiteboards filled with encryption sequences. Horizon Security started seeing unprecedented results. I was identifying vulnerabilities that even veteran security experts had overlooked, developing relationships with government agencies, and establishing myself as an emerging authority in the field. My salary increased dramatically with each successful project. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving, I was building substantial wealth. Family, still remarkably uninterested, at monthly video calls, which I still participated in, against my better judgment, the conversations inevitably went like this. Mom, Madison's still at that IT company, right? Cybersecurity firm. And yes, actually, I just prevented a major national infrastructure breach. Vanessa, interrupting. Oh my God, speaking of technology, you guys have to see this filter app I'm using for my Instagram posts. I gained like 200 followers last week, but I no longer cared about their approval. For the first time in my life, I had discovered something entirely my own. Something I genuinely excelled at. Something completely separate from being Vanessa's awkward stepsister. Family disappointment. The Global Security Initiative. Then came the Morrison Projects. This was about 2 years into my career at Horizon. A multinational corporation, critical infrastructure protection, government oversight, a career-defining opportunity. I led the team developing their security protocols, and that's when I created it, an adaptive defense algorithm that could predict and counter attacks in real time, something the industry had been attempting to develop for years. I spent 72 hours coding without meaningful breaks. I subsisted on energy drinks and determination. The result was a revolutionary security protocol that automatically adapted to new threats as they emerged. When the system successfully repelled a coordinated attack that would have crippled several critical infrastructure nodes, Dr. Trent called me into his office. I expected a promotion to senior security architect. Instead, he said something that completely altered my trajectory. Madison, you're wasting your potential here. You should be running your own cybersecurity firm. Initially, I dismissed the idea. Me? Launchy startup. With what resources? But the suggestion lingered in my mind. I began taking on small independent security consulting projects. Word spread about my innovative approach to threat detection. Tech companies started reaching out directly. One night, sitting in my modest apartment surrounded by servers and cybersecurity manuals I'd accumulated, the realization hit me like a cascade of perfect code. I could actually do this. I could build something extraordinary on my own terms. So I took the leap that terrified and exhilarated me. I leveraged my security patents as collateral. I withdrew my modest savings. I leased a small office space in an aging strip mall on the edge of Seattle's tech corridor. Everyone thought I was making a catastrophic mistake. Perhaps I was. I converted a former storage unit that barely accommodated my equipment. The rent was affordable because the building had spotty electrical service, and the internet connection dropped whenever it rained, which in Seattle meant nearly every day. But it was mine. The struggle. The first few months were challenging. And by challenging, I mean absolutely terrifying. I'd bolt awake at 3 o'clock, calculating runway metrics and burn rates in my head. Loan payments loomed like malicious code in a critical system. My office setup consisted of refurbished servers stacked on plastic folding tables and a desk chair I rescued from a dumpster behind a tech startup that had just folded. I thoroughly sanitized it, don't worry. But in the cybersecurity world, innovation and results are everything. And my experience at Horizon had established my reputation for both. I started with small security audits for local tech companies. My fees were lower than established firms, but my thorough vulnerability assessments impressed clients immediately. My client list expanded rapidly. 6 months in, everything changed overnight. A former colleague from Horizon contacted me about a healthcare system experiencing subtle security anomalies no one could identify. The organization operated hundreds of facilities nationwide, with millions of sensitive patient records at risk. I worked for 17 days straight, sleeping on my office floor, methodically hunting through their systems. I discovered an extraordinarily sophisticated dormant malware that had been planted months earlier, waiting to encrypt and ransom their entire database. My custom detection algorithm not only found the threat, but developed a containment protocol that became the industry standard for similar attacks. The healthcare system's CTO was so impressed with my work that beyond my contracted fee, he offered me a 3-year security partnership worth millions. The contract value? $3.5 million. More money than I could have imagined making in my 20s. Suddenly, my inbox was overflowing with requests. Tech companies had heard about my ability to identify security weaknesses others had missed. Corporate boards wanted vulnerability assessments for their digital infrastructure. Even Horizon began subcontracting specialized security projects to me. I suspect Dr. Trent was quietly recommending me to his network. Thanks for believing in me, mentor. Scaling up, by year 2, I'd hired my first team member, Zoe, a brilliant cybersecurity graduate who reminded me painfully of myself at her age. Exceptional talent that had been overlooked because she was reserved and didn't fit the tech bro stereotype. She's now my chief security architect and worth every penny of her substantial salary. The company expanded at a pace that sometimes terrified me. We moved to proper offices in Seattle's tech corridor. Goodbye. Unreliable electricity. built a team of specialized security experts from diverse backgrounds, developed a reputation for extraordinary discretion. Turns out many corporations and government agencies prefer their security vulnerabilities fixed without public knowledge. The revenue was substantial enough that I needed to hire a team of financial advisors to manage it properly. Despite my success, I maintained a deliberately modest public profile, purchased a comfortable but unassuming house in a nice Seattle neighborhood, drove a high-end electric vehicle that wouldn't draw attention. The only place I allowed myself true extravagance? My home security lab, cutting-edge servers, advanced penetration testing equipment, and a custom-designed secure workspace that cybersecurity magazines would have featured on their covers. The irony? My family still thought I was struggling financially to help them. Mom would make comments like, "It's so admirable how Madison contributes what little she can. She must be eating cup noodles every night to manage." Meanwhile, I just closed a security contract worth more than their entire neighborhood. Success creates a strange paradox. The more you achieve after being consistently underestimated, the more impossible it becomes to explain your reality to those who've always seen you as less than. It's like trying to describe quantum computing to someone who thinks computers are just fancy typewriters. The conceptual gap is simply too vast. By this point, my company, Quantum Shield Security, was thriving beyond my wildest expectations. We'd become the go-to cybersecurity solution for tech companies throughout the West Coast, with our reputation for excellence spreading globally. Yet every month, I joined my family's video calls, playing the role of Madison, the struggling IT worker. The cognitive dissonance was becoming unbearable. I'd spend my mornings in confidential briefings with government security agencies, my afternoons implementing protection for critical infrastructure, and my evenings nodding patiently on video calls while Vanessa dominated the conversation with stories about her latest influencer achievement, usually something trivial like receiving free samples from a skincare brand. A defining moment. One particular video call stands out vividly. I'd just finalized a groundbreaking security partnership with 3 major tech companies. The contract value? 8 figures, with my name on multiple patents. I joined the family call directly from my conference room, still riding the professional high of the deal's completion. "Mom, Madison honey, are you taking care of yourself? Your apartment looks so plain in the background." Me, sitting in my custom-designed office that had been featured in Technology Today magazine, deliberately keeping my camera angle tight. "Oh, you know how it is. Trying to save where I can." Vanessa, "Well, if you'd focused on something people actually care about instead of boring computer stuff." Gregory, Vanessa, "Be kind. Not everyone has your natural charisma and business instincts." I nearly spat out my premium Japanese green tea, trying to contain my laughter. The anonymous support. The regular financial support to my family began around this time. Aunt Penelope had mentioned they were struggling with Vanessa's mounting credit card debt and Gregory's business difficulties. Mom had hinted they might need to downsize from the family home. Despite our complicated history, I couldn't let that happen. It was still where my father's memories lived. I arranged anonymous monthly transfers of $5,000 to their account. When questioned about my personal contributions, I claimed I was sending $1,000 by cutting back on everything non-essential. They assumed the remaining support came from Aunt Penelope or other relatives. Vanessa naturally took credit for inspiring family members to help out during tough times. Watching Vanessa spend my money, the financial support helped stabilize their situation, but with unexpected side effects. My parents began treating me with this uncomfortable mixture of condescension and pity, as if I were some struggling martyr sacrificing my well-being for family. Meanwhile, Vanessa's spending became increasingly extravagant. She'd appear on video calls, showing off new designer outfits, claiming they were amazing outlet deals. They weren't. I could identify authentic luxury brands instantly from my authentication work. Her social media filled with posts about exclusive restaurants and weekend getaways. Always hashtagged, #blessed, and #hard work pays off. I was almost certain she was using the family's emergency funds, my money, to finance her influencer facade. Yet I remained silent. The situation was too ironically perfect to disrupt. The MBA drama. Then came the graduate school saga. Vanessa announced she wanted to pursue an MBA in digital marketing and influencer economics. Yes, apparently that's a specialization now. Of course, only the most prestigious private university would suffice. Gregory called me privately, his voice strained as he explained their financial predicament. Me. Have you considered state universities? Many have excellent digital marketing programs at a fraction of the cost. Gregory. Madison. You don't understand business networking. Vanessa needs the right connections for her influencer brand. But speaking of finances, we were wondering if you might be able to increase your monthly help during her graduate program. I increased the transfers to $7,000 monthly. My financial advisors barely noticed the adjustment in my portfolio, but witnessing my family praise Vanessa for her educational investment while simultaneously believing I was sacrificing meals to help. The emotional dissonance was becoming harder to bear. The supreme irony? I had been invited to give the keynote address at the very business school's technology entrepreneurship conference that Vanessa wanted to attend. The dean had personally reached out, calling me one of the most innovative security entrepreneurs of our generation. I fabricated an elaborate work emergency to explain my absence from the monthly family call that week. My success increasingly felt like living a double life, as if I were some tech world superhero with a carefully guarded secret identity. By day, I was running a multi-million-dollar cybersecurity empire protecting critical infrastructure. By evening video calls, I was just Madison, the disappointing stepdaughter who played with computers at some IT company. The breaking point. Christmas. The burden of this deception was becoming unbearable. Vanessa's condescending remarks about my career grew more frequent and cutting. Mom's apologetic explanations to relatives about my modest career choices became increasingly elaborate. Gregory's suggestions that I find a real profession with growth potential grew more insistent. I always knew the truth would eventually emerge. I just never anticipated it would explode so spectacularly. At Christmas. It began 3 weeks before the holiday. Mom called, distraught about planning the annual family Christmas gathering. Between managing Vanessa's influencer commitments and Gregory's business stress, organizing a celebration for 25 relatives seemed overwhelming. I'd like to claim I offered to host Christmas purely from familial devotion. But truthfully, I was exhausted by pretending to enjoy their annual cultural appropriation of Chinese dishes they'd serve alongside traditional ham, claiming it was to honor my heritage while mispronouncing every dish name. Me. Why don't I handle Christmas this year? I could have it catered at my place. Mom. Oh, sweetie, we couldn't possibly afford a proper caterer. Me. The cost isn't an issue. I've been saving specifically for something like this. Mom. Visibly concerned. Madison, please tell me you're not maxing out credit cards for this? I arranged everything with an exclusive catering company I regularly used for corporate events. Their executive chef created a magnificent fusion menu that respectfully incorporated both traditional American Christmas dishes and authentic Taiwanese specialties. The cost exceeded what my family likely believed I earned in 6 months. But I wanted this Christmas to be memorable, for reasons they couldn't yet understand. Christmas morning arrived crisp and clear. I felt simultaneously anxious and relieved as I made final preparations. I kept my laptop nearby to monitor a major security implementation for a financial services client. They were deploying my breakthrough encryption protocol across their global network, and I needed to oversee the final stages. The family arrived, and dinner was served precisely on schedule. Every dish was exquisitely prepared. Vanessa, predictably, had immediate criticisms. Vanessa, store-bought dumplings? Really, Madison? Moms are so much more authentic. This from someone who once asked if Taiwan was, like, part of Thailand. Mom kept apologizing to everyone for not cooking herself, though it was obvious they were enjoying the professional quality of the meal. Even Vanessa fell silent after tasting the perfectly prepared Taiwanese beef noodle soup, which, incidentally, cost more per serving than her monthly cosmetics budget. After dessert, I excused myself to check my laptop. The security implementation was at a critical phase, and I needed to verify the encryption protocols were properly deployed. I set up in my home office, which I'd kept locked throughout the gathering to avoid questions about the advanced technology visible there. That's when everything unraveled. I'd left my security dashboard visible, with multiple tabs showing account balances, pending contracts, and live implementation metrics. Vanessa entered without knocking. Invading privacy was her specialty, claiming she needed a better backdrop for a quick Instagram story. She glimpsed my screens and immediately recognized an opportunity to finally expose how pathetically small her stepsister's tech job really was. Vanessa, with a malicious smile, let's show everyone what important computer stuff Madison's doing on Christmas. Before I could react, she grabbed my laptop and paraded into the living room where everyone was gathered. The big reveal. Imagine this scene. 25 family members, cousins, aunts, uncles, and my parents, comfortably settled with premium desserts and expensive wine, which they probably assumed was from Costco. Vanessa, time for everyone to see what kind of serious tech work Madison is doing on Christmas. She turned the laptop toward the room triumphantly, clearly expecting to humiliate me with whatever minor IT task she assumed I was handling. The room fell completely silent. The only sound was the limited edition Swiss clock I'd given Mom last Christmas ticking softly. She believed it was a department store purchase. My screen displayed personal net worth, $12.4 million. Pending security contract, $3.2 million. Recent transaction, $1.2 million. Global security implementation status, 85% complete. Quarterly valuation, $7.6 million. Vanessa's expression transformed through multiple emotions in rapid succession. She ended looking somewhere between shocked and physically ill. She actually had to steady herself against the wall. Vanessa, barely audible. This has to be fake. Mom, Vanessa, sweetheart, what's wrong? Vanessa, voice breaking. She's rich. Madison is rich. Chaos erupts. The silence somehow deepened before Mom began laughing nervously. Not amused laughter, the uncomfortable kind that people use when they're desperately hoping something isn't true. Mom, don't be ridiculous. Madison works at that little tech support company. Me, standing up, smoothing the deceptively simple cashmere sweater that cost more than their monthly mortgage. Actually, Mom, I founded and own one of the largest cybersecurity firms in the country. Those computer stuff comments? I develop encryption protocols that protect critical national infrastructure. That little IT job you never bothered to ask about. My company has offices in 4 cities and government contracts in 3 countries. Gregory choked on his wine. Aunt Penelope dropped her dessert fork. A cousin started coughing uncontrollably. Then Mom's nervous laughter transformed into something else entirely. Her face flushed bright red, then almost purple with rage. She stood so abruptly her chair crashed backward. Mom, shouting, You have millions, and you've watched us struggle with bills? Me, struggle? I've been anonymously sending you $7,000 every month for over a year. Mom, while sitting on millions. Your sister has credit card debt. There it was. Not a single word of congratulations. Not one. We're proud of your accomplishments. Just outraged that I hadn't given them more of my money. Vanessa started crying dramatically, her specialty, sobbing about how she deserved to know and how I'd betrayed everyone by succeeding privately. Gregory joined the attack. Gregory, how could you be so selfish? We're your family. We've supported you. That's when years of suppressed feelings erupted. Years of cultural erasure. Years of having my intelligence dismissed. Years of being treated as the family disappointment. Every emotion I'd controlled for so long came pouring out. Me supported me? You dismissed everything about me from the moment I entered your house. You ignored every achievement, every award, every milestone because it might overshadow precious Vanessa. You never contributed a penny toward my education while paying for Vanessa's third attempt at college. And now you're angry because I built something extraordinary without your help or approval. The next several minutes passed in a chaotic blur. Mom ranting about family loyalty. Gregory shouting about cultural respect. Vanessa alternating between theatrical sobbing and demanding to know exact figures about my net worth. I stood motionless, watching the catering staff exchange uncomfortable glances as they discreetly cleared dessert plates. I grabbed my laptop, picked up my designer tote, which Mom had previously admired as such a convincing lookalike, and walked out. Behind me, I could hear Mom already planning how to spend my money, something about Vanessa's MBA and Gregory's new business venture. As I drove home in my practical car, actually a limited edition Tesla, my phone erupted with notifications. The family group chat exploded with messages. Vanessa immediately launched into a multi-platform social media campaign about hidden wealth and familial betrayal. The aftermath, the weeks following Christmas, unfolded like watching a high-speed collision in slow motion. Except the vehicles were my family relationships, and the casualties were my emotional well-being. Let's start with the digital barrage. Within 2 hours of leaving my own house, I had 63 missed calls and over 250 messages. Mom's texts followed a fascinatingly predictable arc. 6:18 p.m. How dare you humiliate our family like this? 7:42 p.m. We need to discuss this situation rationally as adults. 8:37 p.m. Vanessa deserves financial compensation for all she's endured as your sister. 10:15 p.m. I've been researching beachfront properties. When can we discuss investment options? 11:52 p.m. Why aren't you responding? I am your mother. Vanessa, meanwhile, had transformed her social media presence into a full-blown victimhood campaign. She crafted an elaborate narrative on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter about her secret tech millionaire stepsister who had hoarded wealth while watching her struggling family sacrifice everything. The comments sections became toxic wastelands. Second cousins I hadn't seen since childhood, former classmates who hadn't spoken to me in a decade, and complete strangers all suddenly felt entitled to judge my character and financial decisions. But the post that genuinely infuriated me was Vanessa's Instagram story claiming, "All those years I tried supporting Madison's career, encouraging her to aim higher than that dead-end IT job. Well, she secretly built a tech empire behind my back." I nearly shattered my phone against the wall. Her only career advice had been suggesting I make cute custom phone cases or something because people actually buy that stuff. For those unfamiliar with toxic family dynamics, flying monkeys refers to when manipulative individuals recruit others to pressure you. Aunt Diane, who I'd seen maybe twice in 5 years, left a voicemail explaining how blood is thicker than water. Uncle Paul, who consistently called me by the wrong name, sent a lengthy email about Asian family values and filial responsibility, apparently forgetting my Taiwanese heritage was from my father's side, not my stepfather's family. Even Gregory's former golf partner's daughter somehow obtained my email to share her thoughts on tech wealth inequality in families. The situation escalated dramatically when they appeared at my company headquarters. I arrived Monday morning to find Mom, Gregory, and Vanessa waiting in our reception area. They'd informed Zoe, my operations director, that they needed an urgent security consultation. Vanessa clutched her non-authentic designer handbag like it was priceless evidence in a court case. The confrontation was exactly as dysfunctional as you'd imagine. Mom, we've had an extensive family discussion about this situation. Me, a family discussion that conveniently excluded the family member you were discussing? Mom, continuing as if I hadn't spoken. And we've determined the fair solution is establishing trust funds for each family member. Vanessa, I'll need at least $2 million to launch my influencer enterprise properly. Gregory, your mother and I deserve to retire comfortably. We're considering oceanfront property in Malibu. Me, did you somehow miss that I've been anonymously sending you $7,000 monthly for over a year? Vanessa, that's literally nothing compared to what you have. You owe us your success. Me, I owe you. For what, exactly? For dismissing my cultural identity? For ignoring my academic achievements? For treating my technological interests as embarrassing oddities? Mom, stop being so dramatic, Madison. We gave you everything you needed. Me, no. I gave myself everything I needed. And I built something extraordinary despite you, not because of you. In that moment, something permanent shifted inside me. Standing in my own company lobby, I pulled out my phone and canceled all recurring transfers to their accounts. Mom physically recoiled as if I'd struck her. Vanessa launched into her practiced, crying routine, but abruptly stopped when she realized it wasn't achieving the desired effect. The situation deteriorated rapidly. They refused to leave voluntarily. I was forced to call building security. Watching my mother being professionally escorted from my company headquarters while shouting about ungrateful children and cultural disrespect was surreal and heartbreaking. Zoe asked if I wanted to file a police report. I declined but added their names to our security system's restricted access list. Their harassment campaign continued relentlessly. New phone numbers appeared daily. Fake email accounts flooded my inbox. They even attempted contacting me through my company's client support channels. Eventually, I instructed my legal team to issue a formal cease and desist letter with explicit warnings about potential harassment charges. Mom deployed her final strategic weapon. She contacted Grandma Evelyn. But here's what Mom failed to understand about my grandmother. She's more insightful and independent-minded than the entire family combined. Grandma Evelyn, I'm absolutely thrilled for Madison. Finally, someone in this family is honoring her father's legacy and creating success on her own terms. Mom refused to speak to Grandma for nearly 3 months after that conversation. It's been 6 months since that Christmas revelation. I've relocated to a more secure home with advanced security systems. I've changed all my contact information. My company continues to thrive. Ironically, our public handling of the family situation attracted several high-profile clients who valued our demonstrated commitment to confidentiality under pressure. Vanessa is apparently launching her own cybersecurity consulting business, with zero technical background or credentials. Mom and Gregory finally ceased contact attempts after receiving a comprehensive legal document from my attorneys detailing potential criminal consequences for continued harassment. They're now telling extended family they never wanted handouts anyway, and are concerned about the materialistic path I've chosen. The most remarkable outcome? For the first time since my father died, I feel genuinely free. No more performative video calls filled with subtle cultural microaggressions. No more downplaying my technological achievements to avoid making Vanessa feel inadequate. No more financing the Vanessa influencer projects behind the scenes. My therapist describes it as establishing healthy boundaries. I see it as finally breathing without restrictions. So that's my story, Reddit. Thanks for letting me share this journey. Special appreciation to the catering company, who sent me a handwritten note saying the Christmas dinner was the most memorable event of their season for multiple reasons. Edit. Answering frequent questions. Yes, therapy continues to be essential to my healing process. No, I have zero regrets about establishing boundaries. Yes, Grandma Evelyn is thriving. She's visiting next month to help test some new encryption algorithms. She was a computer science professor, after all. One final note for Vanessa, since I know you're monitoring this thread, that enterprise-grade security software you're promoting on Instagram, it has critical vulnerabilities in its authentication protocols. Just saying.